Hi DIYers, this is Michael from Alarm Grid, and today I'm going to be showing you how to restore your installer code to its default setting on a Qolsys IQ Panel 2 Plus security system. So the installer code is used for getting in and out of programming. The default installer code on an IQ Panel 2 is 1111, 4 ones. The reason you want to keep this code at the default, and let me backtrack a second, you should keep this code at the default because one, it doesn't present a security risk to keep it at the default. You can't disarm the system using the installer code, and by keeping the installer code at the default, even if you forget the code, you can look it up later, and that way you'll be able to get into programming, and you won't be locked out of programming. That is, not able to get into programming. So we have our IQ Panel 2 system here, IQ Panel 2 Plus. Now, the main way you're going to change the code is you're actually just going to go into the user's menu, and you're going to literally change the code manually. The only other way you can change the code back to the default would be to do a factory reset of the system, and that's a little bit extreme because you will have to reprogram the entire system, including any sensors you set up with the system, any changes you made to the settings. It'll be as though the system is brand new, fresh from the factory, so you're going to have to go and reconfigure everything, which is pretty inconvenient. So if you know the installer code or the dealer code, and you can get into the user's management menu to manually change the code back to 1111, that's really what you want to do. And like I said, you can use the installer code or the dealer code to do this. And I'll also show you that it's not a security risk to keep it at the default, but one step at a time. So if you know your installer code or your dealer code, you can go and change the installer code back to the default using this process that I'm about to show you here. So we're at the main screen of our IQ Panel 2 Plus. The original IQ2 is the same, by the way. So we're at the main screen. We're going to click the small gray bar at the top, and we're going to choose Settings, and we're going to choose Advanced Settings.
Enter user code.
And then I'll enter in the dealer code here. I'll do 2222. That's the default dealer code. We also recommend keeping that at the default as well because it is a good code to have. You do need that for the factory reset, actually. So if you lose the code, then you're kind of out of luck. So, but we're at the dealer Advanced Settings screen, and we can choose user management, and you see it gives us access to every system code here. The reason we have access to the dealer code is because we used the dealer code to access this menu. If we used the installer code, then it wouldn't be there. The dealer code is the highest authority, and only the dealer code can change the dealer code. So we have our installer code right here. It's slot 241, ID 241. And if we see we can't delete it, that the trash can icon is grayed out because you always have to have the installer code. It's wired into the system, has to be there. So if I click the pencil icon, though, I can go and change the code. I'm not going to change the code because I don't want to, because I want to keep it at the default. I don't want to get locked out of programming and potentially forget the code. So I'm not going to change anything here. But I will show you that if I were to access this menu through a different means, let's do Settings, Advanced Settings. And then let's say I used the master code to get into programming. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it gives us a license agreement because we did a factory defaulting of the IQ2 in a very recent video. We used our master code this time. And now I go into user management, and oh no, the installer code's not there. I can't change it with the master code. You see, I also can't change the dealer code because the master code is considered a lower authority in this case. But the master code can do one thing that the installer code and the dealer code can't. If I arm the system, we'll arm stay. The reason I arm stay is just because I didn't want to wait through a countdown. And now let's say I want to disarm the system, and let's try the installer code 1111. It didn't work. Let's try the dealer code. And
Disarm system in 20 seconds.
wow, we're running out of time. But you see, it didn't work with the dealer code or the installer code. But I can do the master code 1, 2, 3, 4. And that does disarm the system. And you see, even though we have the installer code at the default setting and the dealer code at the default setting, even if I was a savvy intruder and knew that information, I still wouldn't be able to disarm the system. So keeping those codes at the default does not present a security risk. It's really important to understand that. So the only other way I can change the installer code back to default would be to do a master reset of the system, a factory reset of the system. And the only way I'm doing that is if I have the dealer code, which I will show you how to get to that option here. So we're going to choose the small gray bar at the top. We're going to choose Settings, and we're going to choose Advanced Settings. And then I'm going to enter in the dealer code 2222. And then I'm going to choose Installation, Dealer Settings. And then if I scroll down there's an option down here. We just did this in a recent video. It's master reset right there. And then I can choose that, and it gives me the option to do a factory default of the system, a master factory reset. Reset everything. I'm going to have to reprogram the system from scratch, and it will reset the dealer code and the installer code back to their default settings. So that is an option there if you know the code. But if you don't have the installer code or the dealer code, then you're in quite a bit of trouble. So hopefully you have your system monitored and your monitoring company can look it up for you. But first and foremost, don't change your installer code. You saw I took us to the menu and I didn't want to change it because I didn't want us to be locked out. It's not a good practice to change the installer code from its default of 1111. So those are the two ways you can change the installer code, though. How you would get it back to the default. You can access the user management menu. You have to use the installer code or the dealer code. And just for fun, I'll show you, because I've only shown you the dealer code for accessing it, but if I did the installer code, settings, advanced settings, and then I did the default installer code, and I do user management, you see I do get the option to change the installer code. But I don't get the option to change the dealer code because the dealer code is higher authority. So let's not hit my arm against the GC2E, and let's press the home button and go home. So those are the two ways you can change the installer code on the IQ Panel 2 Plus. If you have any questions about the IQ Panel 2 Plus or about alarm monitoring services, send an email to support@alarmgrid.com. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up below to like the video, and remember to subscribe to our channel for updates on future videos. We hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.